In the annals of Japanese boxing, few stories have been as bitter, controversial, and emotionally charged as the saga of Luis Neri. To call him a villain would be an understatement. He was not simply disliked, he was despised, an unwelcome intruder who had violated one of Japan's sacred sporting legacies. He was booed in the ring, jeered by fans, and castigated in the press. He did not just beat a hero, he disgraced him, staining an entire nation's sense of honor in the process. Years earlier, Shinsuke Yamanaka had been on the cusp of immortality. The elegant southpaw from Shiga was the reigning WBC bantamweight champion and one of Japan's most beloved fighters. Known for his devastating straight left hand, which earned him the nickname God's Left, Yamanaka had defended his title 12 times. Each defense brought him closer to tying the national record set by Yoko Gushiken, a fighter whose 13 successful defenses in the 1970s had become one of Japan's untouchable records. For Yamanaka, matching that record would mean more than a line in the history books. It would mean joining the pantheon of eternal Japanese champions. But fate and Luis Neri had other plans, and in August of 2017, Yamanaka stepped into the ring against a little-known Mexican contender, only 22 years old at the time. Luis Neri was a southpaw brawler with heavy hands, aggressive movement, and a fearless streak that made him dangerous. Japanese fans expected Yamanaka's experience and skill to carry the day. Instead, they watched in horror as Neri walked through their champion's best punches and unleashed a relentless storm of his own. In the fourth round, Yamanaka was stopped. A stunned silence fell over the arena. The legend's reign was over, but the real storm came afterward. Only days later, reports revealed that Neri had tested positive for zilpaterol, a banned substance commonly used as a weight-cutting aid. Initially, his camp insisted the result was due to tainted Mexican meat, a familiar excuse in the boxing world. For a brief moment, some wanted to believe it. But when the B sample returned positive as well, the excuse collapsed. The levels were too high, too pure, and too obvious. This was not contamination. This was deliberate. The backlash was immediate and furious. Japanese fans felt cheated, robbed of their champion's rightful place in history. Media outlets called it a national disgrace. The Ring magazine stripped Neri of recognition, but the WBC, controversially, did not overturn the result. Yamanaka's loss stood. His dream of tying Gushiken's record was gone forever. The rematch was supposed to be redemption, a chance for Yamanaka to right the wrong. But again, controversy struck. At the weigh-in, Neri came in more than 3 pounds overweight, an egregious violation of the bantamweight limit. In most cases, such a weight miss would cancel the fight. But Yamanaka, perhaps feeling duty-bound to give his fans closure, agreed to proceed. It was a mistake. Weakened physically and emotionally, the great champion was dismantled in 2 brutal rounds. And then, to make matters worse, Neri celebrated wildly. He pranced, gestured, and grinned, oblivious, or perhaps indifferent, to the devastation he had caused. What should have been a solemn moment became a scene of mockery. For Japanese fans, it was unbearable. The Japan Boxing Commission reacted swiftly and decisively. They banned Luis Neri for life from competing in the country, a punishment rarely handed down, especially to foreign fighters. He became a pariah, exiled not only from the Japanese ring but also from Japanese respect. He was no longer merely a villain, he was an enemy. Yet in the ashes of Yamanaka's fall, another figure began to rise. Naoya Inoue, the man who had come to be known as the Monster, was already a prodigy, a world champion in 2 divisions. But with Yamanaka's decline, Inoue became the new standard-bearer for Japanese boxing. Only 2 months after Yamanaka's loss, Inoue moved up in weight and destroyed Jamie McDonnell to capture the WBA bantamweight title. The contrast was stark. Where Yamanaka's fall had left fans broken-hearted, Inoue's rise gave them hope. He was calm, composed, and respectful outside the ring, but inside it, he was a destroyer. Over the next 2 years, Inoue entered the prestigious World Boxing Super Series, where he flattened opponents with surgical precision. His 72nd knockout of Juan Carlos Payano sent shockwaves through the sport. His dismantling of Emmanuel Rodriguez in 2 rounds cemented his status as a generational talent. And then came the final, against the great Nonito Donaire. That fight was a war. Inoue was tested like never before, suffering a broken orbital bone, but he fought through the pain and rallied to win a unanimous decision. The victory was not just about another belt. It was a coronation. By the end of 2019, Inoue was recognized as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Meanwhile, Luis Neri's career spiraled. He missed weight again, this time against Rodriguez, leading to another cancelled fight. Even Inoue, usually diplomatic, could not hide his frustration. He publicly called for Neri to be exiled from boxing altogether. To Japanese fans, Neri was not simply an opponent who had wronged them. He was a stain that needed to be erased. As the years went by, Inoue's legend only grew. He became undisputed champion at bantamweight, then moved up to super bantamweight and repeated the feat, becoming a 4-division world champion. Each fight was another masterpiece of precision and violence. His star power in Japan soared to unprecedented heights. He sold out arenas, headlined massive events, and became the first Japanese fighter in 85 years to win the prestigious Boxing Writers Association of America Fighter of the Year award. He was no longer just a boxer. He was a national treasure. And then, fate brought Luis Neri back into the picture, and February 2023, Neri fought Azat Hovhannisyan in a WBC title eliminator. It was a brutal contest, but Neri emerged victorious, earning the position of mandatory challenger for the WBC Super Bantamweight titles. That meant one thing: if he wanted to fight for the belt, he would have to fight Naoya Inoue. The Japanese Boxing Commission faced a dilemma. They had banned Neri for life. They had never reinstated fighters before, not even their own legends. And yet, this time, they made an exception.
Why?
The answer was simple. This was not about giving Neri redemption. This was about justice. The commission knew what the fans wanted. They wanted Inoue, their monster, to exact revenge, not only for himself, but also for Shinsuke Yamanaka, for Japanese boxing, and for the insult that had never been forgotten. The ban was lifted. The gates were opened. Not for mercy, but for execution. On May 6, 2024, at the Tokyo Dome, 55,000 fans gathered to witness what had been billed as a reckoning years in the making. For the first time in history, the Dome would host a boxing match. The anticipation was electric, the atmosphere thick with both excitement and vengeance. This was not just a title defense. This was personal. From the opening bell, Inoue was calm, measured, and stalking. But in the very first round, disaster struck. Neri, reckless and aggressive, landed a lightning-quick counter left that caught Inoue flush. For the first time in his professional career, Naoya Inoue hit the canvas. Gasps rippled through the Tokyo Dome. 55,000 hearts froze in unison. The villain had drawn first blood. For a brief, terrifying moment, it seemed possible that history could repeat itself, that Neri could once again humiliate Japan on its own soil. He pressed forward recklessly, looking for the finish. But Inoue, ever composed, weathered the storm. He survived the round, his expression never changing, his focus unwavering. Round 2 told a different story. Inoue reset, recalibrated, and resumed his hunt. When Neri lunged forward, overconfident, Inoue punished him with a short, savage left hand. The shot dropped Neri hard to the canvas. The Tokyo Dome erupted. The monster had returned. From that moment, the tide shifted completely. Inoue's rhythm began to flow. His punches landed with surgical accuracy, each strike a combination of speed, timing, and devastating power. Neri tried to rally, but every mistake was punished. In the third round, Inoue's right hand found its mark repeatedly. By the fourth, it was a massacre. Inoue taunted his foe, lowering his hands, daring Neri to swing, humiliating him in front of the very fans who once booed him out of Japan. The fight had become something more than sport. It was a ritual of reckoning, a public unmasking of the villain. Neri's body was breaking down. His eyes betrayed him. He knew he could not win. By the fifth round, the walls were closing in. Inoue's combinations were flowing, sharp, and merciless. And then, once more, Neri crumbled beneath a perfectly placed left hook. He went down again, slower this time, the inevitability of defeat sinking in. The end came soon after. In the sixth round, Inoue unleashed a barrage of punches that left Neri defenseless. A final, crushing right hand sent him collapsing to the canvas. The referee waved it off. The monster had roared, and justice had been delivered. The Tokyo Dome erupted like never before. 55,000 fans stood on their feet, not just to celebrate a knockout, but to celebrate closure. This was not merely another victory for Naoya Inoue. This was the restoration of honor, the avenging of Shinsuke Yamanaka, and the purging of years of bitterness. Luis Neri had returned to Japan, but not as a conquering villain. He returned to face his judgment, and judgment was delivered. For Naoya Inoue, it was another defense of his undisputed crown, another chapter in a career already destined for greatness. But for Japan, it was something far deeper. It was a national cleansing, the moment they had waited for since 2017. The monster had not just won. He had redeemed the past. And somewhere, in the quiet of history, the ghost of Shinsuke Yamanaka could finally rest.